Before the first light of dawn touches the highlands of Central America, Guatemala is already awake. Mist drifts slowly across ancient stone temples hidden in the jungle. Volcanoes breathe quietly against the sky, their silhouettes unchanged for thousands of years. Somewhere between the calls of tropical birds and the distant sound of church bells, time itself seems to blur. This is a land where the past is not buried. It is alive, watching, remembering. Guatemala is often described as the heart of the ancient Maya world, but that description barely scratches the surface. This country is not just a place on a map. It is a crossroads of civilizations, geology, culture, and human resilience. To understand Guatemala is to understand how nature and humanity have shaped each other over millennia, sometimes in harmony, sometimes through struggle, but always with profound consequences. Geographically, Guatemala sits at a powerful intersection. It bridges North and South America, connects the Pacific Ocean to the Caribbean Sea, and lies directly on some of the most active tectonic plates on Earth. This restless geology gave birth to towering volcanoes, fertile valleys, and dense rainforests, but it also brought earthquakes, eruptions, and constant uncertainty. For ancient peoples, this land was both generous and dangerous, a place that demanded respect. Long before Europeans ever glimpsed these shores, Guatemala was the beating heart of the Maya civilization. By around 2000 BCE, early Maya communities had begun farming maize, beans, and squash, crops that would define Mesoamerican life for thousands of years. Over centuries, these villages evolved into city-states of astonishing complexity. Places like Tikal, El Mirador, and Yaxha rose from the jungle, their pyramids towering above the canopy, aligned precisely with the movements of the sun, moon, and stars. The Maya were not mysterious because they were primitive. They were mysterious because they were advanced. They developed one of the world's most sophisticated writing systems, using hieroglyphs to record history, astronomy, and royal lineages. They understood mathematics well enough to invent the concept of zero independently. They tracked planetary cycles with a precision that still impresses modern scientists. But what truly set the Maya apart was their relationship with time. To them, time was not linear. It was cyclical, sacred, and alive. Their calendars did not predict the end of the world, as modern myths suggest, but rather its endless renewal. Every ceremony, every building, every ritual was tied to cosmic balance. Guatemala, in many ways, was a living observatory. At its height, the Maya world supported millions of people across the region. Cities were connected by trade routes stretching hundreds of miles. Jade from the Motagua Valley traveled across Mesoamerica. Cacao beans served as currency. Feathers from exotic birds were worth more than gold. This was not an isolated jungle society. It was a thriving, interconnected world. And yet, by the time Europeans arrived in the 16th century, many great Maya cities had already been abandoned. For generations, this raised one haunting question: what happened? Modern science has offered clearer answers. Evidence from lake sediments, tree rings, and soil analysis suggests that prolonged droughts, deforestation, and political fragmentation placed unbearable pressure on Maya society. As populations grew, forests were cleared faster than they could recover. Water sources became unreliable. Rival city-states competed for power. The collapse was not sudden. It was slow, painful, and uneven. But collapse did not mean disappearance. Millions of Maya people survived, adapted, and carried their culture forward. Today, Guatemala is home to more than 20 distinct Maya ethnic groups, each with its own language, clothing, traditions, and worldview. In the markets of Chichicastenango, the rhythms of ancient trade continue. In the highlands, traditional weaving patterns still encode identity and history. The Maya never vanished, they endured. Then came the Spanish. In 1524, Conquistador Pedro de Alvarado entered Guatemala with horses, steel weapons, and foreign diseases. What followed was not just conquest, but catastrophe. Indigenous populations were decimated by smallpox and forced labor. Ancient belief systems were suppressed, replaced by colonial rule and Catholicism. Temples were dismantled to build churches. Sacred texts were burned. Yet even under brutal oppression, resistance persisted. Indigenous leaders staged uprisings. Traditions went underground. A unique cultural fusion began to form, one that still defines Guatemala today. Catholic saints were blended with ancient deities. Rituals took on double meanings. Faith became survival. Under Spanish rule, Guatemala became part of the Captaincy General of Guatemala, a colonial territory that stretched across much of Central America. The economy revolved around agriculture, especially cacao, indigo, and later coffee. Land ownership became deeply unequal, a pattern that would shape the country's future conflicts. In 1821, Guatemala gained independence from Spain, but freedom did not bring equality. Power remained concentrated in the hands of a small elite. Indigenous communities continued to face marginalization. Over the next century, foreign interests, particularly from the United States, became increasingly influential, especially through banana and coffee industries. By the mid-20th century, tensions reached a breaking point. Guatemala entered one of the darkest chapters in its history, a brutal civil war that lasted 36 years, from 1960 to 1996. It was a conflict fueled by Cold War politics, deep social inequality, and state-sponsored violence. Entire villages were destroyed. Over 200,000 people were killed or disappeared, the majority of them indigenous Maya. For decades, fear silenced the country. And yet even here, Guatemala endured. When the peace accords were finally signed in 1996, the nation emerged wounded but unbroken. Truth commissions exposed atrocities. Survivors spoke. Memory, once suppressed, began to surface. Healing would be slow, but it had begun. Today, Guatemala stands at another crossroads. Its population is young. Its culture is vibrant. Its challenges, poverty, migration, climate change, are immense. But so is its resilience. In the next part of our journey, we will explore Guatemala's extraordinary landscapes, from fire-born volcanoes to hidden lakes, and how nature continues to shape the lives, risks, and hopes of those who call this land home. As the sun rises higher over Guatemala, the land reveals its true character: dramatic, powerful, and alive. This is one of the most geologically active regions on Earth, shaped by forces far beneath the surface. Guatemala lies along the boundary of the Caribbean Plate and the Cocos Plate, where the Earth's crust grinds, bends, and occasionally breaks. The result is a landscape sculpted by fire and time. More than 30 volcanoes rise across the country, several of them still active. Their presence is impossible to ignore. They dominate the horizon, influence the climate, and shape daily life. For centuries, these volcanoes have been both creators and destroyers, providing fertile soil for agriculture while reminding people of nature's raw power. Among them stands Volcán de Fuego, one of the most active volcanoes in the Americas. Its eruptions are frequent, sometimes violent, sending ash plumes thousands of feet into the air. In 2018, a sudden eruption unleashed deadly pyroclastic flows that swept through nearby communities, claiming hundreds of lives. The tragedy shocked the world, but for Guatemalans, it was also a painful reminder of a reality they have always known. Living here means coexisting with danger. Just a short distance away, Volcán Atitlán offers a different experience. Adventurous hikers climb its slopes overnight, reaching the summit before dawn. From there, they watch fuego erupt in the distance, glowing lava arcs lighting up the dark sky. It is one of the most surreal natural spectacles on Earth, a moment where beauty and destruction exist side by side. Water, too, plays a defining role in Guatemala's geography. Lake Atitlán, often described as one of the most beautiful lakes in the world, sits in a volcanic caldera surrounded by steep mountains and traditional villages. The lake's deep blue waters reflect both sky and history. Each village along its shores has its own identity, language, and customs. Here, Ancient Maya traditions blend seamlessly with modern life. Yet Lake Atitlán also tells a cautionary story. Pollution, invasive species, and climate change threaten its fragile ecosystem. Algae blooms periodically choke its waters, disrupting fishing and tourism. The lake reminds us that even the most stunning natural wonders are vulnerable. Beyond the highlands, Guatemala's landscapes shift dramatically. To the north lies the Petén region, a vast lowland jungle stretching toward Mexico and Belize. This dense rainforest once supported some of the greatest Maya cities ever built. Today, it remains one of the most biodiverse areas in Central America, home to jaguars, howler monkeys, scarlet macaws, and countless plant species. Hidden within this jungle are ruins that still emerge from the earth. Tikal, perhaps the most famous, rises above the canopy with towering pyramids that pierce the sky. Standing there, surrounded by forest sounds and ancient stone, it becomes clear that the jungle did not conquer the Maya cities. It absorbed them, preserving their memory beneath leaves and roots. Modern technology has begun to reveal what the jungle concealed for centuries. Using LiDAR scanning, scientists have discovered tens of thousands of previously unknown structures, roads, terraces, and entire urban networks. These findings have rewritten our understanding of Maya civilization, proving it was far more extensive and interconnected than once believed. Guatemala, once again, surprises the world. Climate plays a crucial role in shaping life here. Guatemala experiences both wet and dry seasons, but climate change has disrupted these patterns. Prolonged droughts affect farming communities, while intense rains trigger landslides and floods. For a country where many people depend directly on the land, these changes are not abstract. They are immediate and personal. Agriculture remains the backbone of rural life. Coffee, grown on volcanic slopes, is among Guatemala's most important exports. The country produces some of the world's finest beans, prized for their rich flavor profiles. But coffee farmers face growing challenges, from fluctuating global prices to crop diseases linked to warming temperatures. Bananas, sugarcane, and cardamom also play major roles in the economy. Guatemala is one of the world's leading exporters of cardamom, a spice that flavors dishes across the Middle East and South Asia. Few consumers realize that the aromatic pods often begin their journey in Guatemalan fields. Despite economic growth in some sectors, inequality remains deeply rooted. Rural indigenous communities often lack access to healthcare, education, and infrastructure. Malnutrition, especially among children, remains a serious concern. These realities drive migration, as thousands of Guatemalans risk dangerous journeys north in search of opportunity. But Guatemala is not defined solely by hardship. Its culture is vibrant, expressive, and resilient. Music echoes through festivals. Color explodes in traditional clothing, where patterns and colors signal community identity. Food tells stories of survival and adaptation. Corn-based dishes like tortillas, tamales, and atol connect modern families to ancient ancestors. Faith, too, remains deeply woven into daily life. In cities like Antigua, religious processions wind through cobblestone streets, carpets of flowers and colored sawdust laid carefully underfoot. These ceremonies blend Catholic symbolism with indigenous beliefs, creating something uniquely Guatemalan, a living testament to cultural fusion. Guatemala is a nation of contrasts, ancient and modern, fragile and strong, scarred and hopeful. Its story is not finished, it is still unfolding. In the final part of our journey, we will look toward Guatemala's future. We will explore how its people are reclaiming their history, confronting challenges, and redefining what it means to move forward without forgetting where they came from. As Guatemala looks toward the future, it does so with the weight of its past always close at hand. This is a country where memory lives in the landscape, in the language, in the quiet resilience of its people. The story of Guatemala does not end in ruins or revolutions. It continues in classrooms, communities, and everyday acts of courage. In recent decades, Guatemala has faced the long and painful process of reckoning with its modern history. A 36-year civil war, one of the longest and most brutal conflicts in Latin America, officially ended in 1996. It left deep scars, more than 200,000 people killed or disappeared, the majority of them indigenous Maya. Entire villages were erased. Trust was broken. Silence became survival. For many years, these stories were buried, much like the ancient cities of the Petén jungle. But silence could not last forever. Survivors began to speak. Truth commissions documented atrocities. Mass graves were uncovered, giving names back to the nameless. Justice has been slow and incomplete, but remembrance itself became an act of resistance. Today, a new generation of Guatemalans is stepping forward. Artists, activists, educators, and entrepreneurs who refuse to let history define their limits. Young indigenous leaders are reclaiming their languages and traditions while demanding representation and equality. Women are increasingly at the forefront of social change, challenging systems that excluded them for centuries. Education is one of the most powerful tools shaping Guatemala's future. In rural villages, small schools operate with limited resources but boundless determination. Teachers often serve as community leaders, mentors, and advocates. For many children, education is not just a path to opportunity. It is a bridge between worlds, connecting ancestral knowledge with modern skills. Technology, too, is changing the landscape. Mobile phones and internet access, once rare, are becoming more widespread. Farmers use weather apps to plan crops. Artisans sell traditional textiles to global markets. Storytellers share Guatemala's voice far beyond its borders, rewriting narratives that were once told only by outsiders. Tourism plays a growing role in this transformation. Travelers come seeking ancient ruins, volcano hikes, and colonial charm. But responsible tourism has the potential to do more than entertain. When guided by local communities, it becomes a source of pride and economic empowerment. Visitors learn that Guatemala is not a backdrop. It is a living, breathing nation with stories worth listening to. Environmental conservation is another defining challenge of the years ahead. Guatemala's rainforests, reefs, and rivers are under pressure from deforestation, mining, and climate change. Yet grassroots movements are rising. Indigenous communities defend ancestral lands using legal systems and traditional stewardship practices passed down for generations. Their message is simple and profound. Protecting nature is not a trend, it is survival. Perhaps Guatemala's greatest strength lies in its ability to endure. Earthquakes shake its cities, volcanoes darken its skies, history tests its spirit, and still, life continues. Markets open at dawn. Families gather around shared meals. Music fills the air during celebrations and protests alike. There is a quiet lesson here, one that reaches far beyond Guatemala's borders. Progress does not mean forgetting. Modernity does not require erasing tradition. Strength does not come from denying pain, but from acknowledging it and choosing to move forward anyway. Guatemala is not a single story. It is millions of stories, layered across time, carried in stone temples, woven fabrics, and human voices. It is a reminder that civilizations do not disappear, they transform, and that the future is not something we inherit fully formed, but something we build, step by step, together. As our journey comes to an end, we are left not with answers but with understanding. Guatemala is ancient, wounded, vibrant, and hopeful all at once. To know it is to listen carefully. To truly see it is to recognize that its story, like ours, is still being written. If this journey through Guatemala moved you, challenged you, or taught you something new, take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe for more cinematic journeys through our world's most fascinating places, and share this story so others can discover the depth behind the map. Because every place has a story, and some of the most powerful ones are waiting to be heard.